Autocracy, it's a type of governance where one person has all the power and decision making.
So
Right.
communism?
To some extent, I mean, communists, like those countries might still have advisors, but dictatorship, monarchies, right? So kingdoms, please. This is the type of behavior that gets you kicked out of class, isn't it?
Or have no rights like me.
Are you just gonna stick to that? Like,
Yeah,
forever?
I'm gonna stick to it forever.
Excellent. Okay. So,
It's just facts.
in an autocracy, the person who is able to make the laws has no restriction. So they can just pass a law tomorrow. You know, no more long hair. Everyone has to buzz cut their head.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be so great, right?
Because then you finally fit in.
Yes, exactly. There you go, right? So if this place is an autocracy and I was in charge, none of you could say, hey, no, that's not fair.
Nobody can call you Ice Spice either.
Well, he fits in with Mr.
That's
Clean,
fine.
so his hair's fine.
There is no rule of law. So in an autocracy, people don't get treated equally in front of the law. Some people have preferential treatment. Okay. Dictatorships, again, very similar to autocracies. It's just how they come into power. So dictatorships, you know, typically it's some sort of military involvement that gets them into power and could potentially keep them in power. The threat of violence, the use of force are very standard in dictatorships and more extreme forms of governance. Okay.
Like Russia?
Yeah, Russia to an extent, and what?
China.
China as well, right? So Tiananmen Square, if you look at that poster, that was Chinese citizens who were protesting. They wanted more media rights, right? So again, they wanted some independent media. They didn't just want government state media.
Yeah, the one guy or the tanks?
Which one?
The tanks are sent from the government, and that one guy. So there are other photos where people were celebrating in the square. They're protesting. They're just in this large square. The government decides, well, we don't like this, and we don't want to give in to your request, so they sent in the military. And a lot of people died. A lot of people, you know, disappeared. But this guy, nobody really knows what happens to Tank Man. Nobody knows his identity, or at least it's not publicly known. But you know, one person refused, and he stood in front of those tanks, and he kept, you know, shifting over and following them. There's a zoomed out photo of that as well. There's like 100 tanks behind that lineup.
Damn.
Right. So this person stood up to the entire country in that moment.
What a guy.
Right? Okay.
Wasn't he
And
run over?
so, what's that?
Wasn't he run over?
I'm not 100% sure. I've heard that as well, but I've also heard that nobody's really fully sure what happened to him.
Like they
Really?
Right. It's very likely he was taken.
After like 10 minutes of trying to maneuver, they probably run over.
Yeah, maybe he got shot. I don't know. Okay.
Shot now.
But yeah, dictatorships. So military takeover, and they use a lot of force. Okay. Democracy. This is more like what we have in Canada. You might want to take a note or two with this slide. Maybe, yeah, this isn't necessarily right on your sheet, but feel free to take a note or two. So again, democracy is where you have representatives chosen through elections. Okay, so we have people who represent our beliefs, opinions, values, and we decide who is in governance based on elections. There is.
I'm not saying please now. You said that so weirdly. Give it. You wanna play? This is red hat on your white hoodie.
Well, when you have people who represent you, chosen in elections.
You have to be nice about it.
Let's make sure we are quiet while I'm teaching. Thank you very much. Please face the front.
My bad.
Facing the front.
In democracy, you also have rule of law, along with political rights and civil rights. Okay. These rights are protected by a constitution, as was already mentioned. So a document that protects your rights legally. Okay. Although, fun or rather sad fact about Canada's constitution, our Charter of Rights, is that, please,
Give back
I'm
that
sure you
water
don't want to
bottle.
get thrown out a second time, okay?
It's awkward to drink.
Additionally, so with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the first line in it essentially states that any of these rights and freedoms can be removed if a court or government democratically decides that there's a legitimate reason to remove those rights. Okay. So, just a little review. What is the difference between an autocracy and a democracy? Okay. What's an autocracy? Raise your hand.
It's where one person is on the very top.
One person's on the top and they make all the decisions. Okay, what's a democracy? Do you want to answer that?
It's where a bunch of people come together and make the decisions.
Yeah, democracy. Many people come together, they vote, they pick representatives. Okay, excellent. So monarchy is a kingdom, king or queen system. Okay, again, you don't need to take notes on this slide, I'll let you know when. An absolute monarchy is, just like that word suggests, absolute. The king or queen in power makes all the decisions. Okay, they have all the authority over the state, over the people, over the governance of that area. A constitutional monarchy is where you still have a monarch, still have a king or queen. I think in some historical cases, the king or queen still has decision-making ability, but there is a constitution in place, so the king or queen still has limitations. The rule of law would still more or less apply to that king or queen as well. Whereas historically, the king or queen could do whatever. Unless, like the French Revolution, they just get fed up and decide we're going to cut this person's head off.
Sweet.
That can also happen. Revolutions do occur.
Would they do that if they have no rights?
Well, some people say a revolution is the language of the people without rights. Right? But you'd have to collect everyone together. If it was just you, that revolution is getting squashed.
I got no rights. That's kind of mean.
Constitutional monarchy, very similar, or we were just chatting about this, but yeah, you have a document that is agreed upon by the citizenry and the king to some extent, king or queen, and it governs over all people. Okay, it defines the powers and duties of the government. It limits, the king or queen. So I have a copy of the Magna Carta at the back of the class, which is the document which was put into place by the English on the right side of the classroom back there, which was the document put into place by the English to limit and restrict the King of England, right? So they did that in the year somewhere around 1208, I think it was. And that was the start of systems where they started removing some of the power from the king or queen and started giving it to more people. Does anyone recognize that flag on the bottom left? Japan.
Japanese.
So in Japan, they also have, I don't know if they still call it an emperor or if they king,
Yeah, I think
but they have a royal family. But just like England, that royal family is more of a token. They kind of just sit as a
Really rich.
acting head, yeah.
Isn't she dead?
Yes.
The queen died. Who succeeded the queen?
King Henry III. Charles.
No, King Charles
III.
the Third. Okay. Does anyone know their relationship?
Cousins. Sisters.
Son?
Yeah, I was told it was King Charles is the son of Queen
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth. That's her name, not Queen Mary. Okay.
Queen.
And that's very
Where'd
standard.
you get that from?
In a monarchy, the power goes within the family line. Okay.
Tight.
So republic
So
again,
how
you
do I
don't need
get into that?
to take notes on this, but a republic is, you still have democracy, you still have elections, but they have foregone the king or queen relationship, right? So America had their big conflict of independence, big war. They became independent from England, right? But they still had power for the people. They still have a constitution. They still have rule of law. Question.
So how do I get into that?
Into what?
Like the royal family.
You gotta hope that you stumble into a princess or prince if that's your
So,
thing, and then you gotta hope you catch their eye, and then you gotta go on a couple dates, and maybe things get serious, then you marry them, right? Because you and I are just commoners, we're just peasants.
So King Charles's daughter, if I go for her.
Sure, I don't know if he
Or
has a
her
daughter.
daughter.
I might be too late for her. She
Me-
might be like 40 already.
Maybe
Maybe
60. King Charles looks old.
Me and Avery can go on a
You look
2-man.
scary.
Whoa, whoa.
So what if I'm like 20 and she's like 60s? That's so good.
Avery, age is just a number.
Yeah.
So I can get in there as soon as I graduate high school?
Yeah.
If that's your
If
age,
you
Cameron, go
can
for
get
it.
yourself to England and get yourself into those circles.
If I can, I'll literally shout you out when I'm up there.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
You can take that poster and you can hold it up in the coronation. Okay. Okay. This question is very hard for the morning class to answer. What's the difference, constitutional monarchy and republic?
Constitutional monarchy has like an emperor or a queen, whereas a republic doesn't have like any head of power that runs through the family.
Excellent. You put the morning class to shame. Excellent. Well done.
That's his class.
More clapping.
Good job.
Okay. Thank you. Please.
Recording this?
I am recording this. I'm gonna send this video home. As an
Wasn't
email.
that a beautiful
If I ever
feel like you should.
to be like, hey, your child's very annoying. You can hear him throughout this video.
You already told my mom that, so don't worry.
You're never gonna like go that, are you? I saw your mom a second time. She dropped off the guitar. I didn't say anything.
Whoa, is that?
Yeah, she came through the school.
How do you feel about this? I don't feel comfortable
How do
with you always
Autumn, how do
Hey,
you feel about it?
She showed up. She showed up to where I work. Okay.
Are you
That's all
seeing
I-
Autumn's mom or something? That's a little
Okay.
weird.
Okay. You gotta take notes for the next couple of slides. We